All right, good afternoon, Jaguars. Welcome to Theme Thursday. Today, I'm probably one of my favorites that we'll be talking about today. I think we're going to have some great energy in the conversation because we are going to be featuring woo today, which is winning others over. So I'm actually joined by a couple of our resident woos from the campus. As you can see, they're psyched because we're also on week 3 of remote work. So this is also their time to shine in regard to woo. So who would have featured today? If everybody wouldn't mind, take a moment and introduce themselves. I greatly would appreciate that. Allie, can we start with you?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. My name is Allie. I am the Service Learning Coordinator at the May Center for Experiential Learning and Community Engagement at Texas A&M San Antonio, and I'm thrilled to be here. Gallup Strengths Enthusiast is my little title here. I am a woo, so I'm excited to share a little bit more about my woo and how it kind of works in my everyday life.
Nice. All right, Kaelyn.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kailyn Reese. I am the internship coordinator on campus. I'm also one of the certified strengths coaches on campus. And so I am excited to be here with all of you and to talk about woo.
And Juan.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Juan Espinoza. I am the Transfer Student Engagement Coordinator. Go Transfers on the campus, and I am a woo for life. Woo for woos. I'm so excited for this. I'm so glad that you all gave me the opportunity to share my experiences with you all. Love you all. Love the idea of having this recorded and having it as a resource for our students. So anything that I can do to make that happen for you all, I'm on board.
Nice. And then I'm Clarissa Tejeda. I am also one of the certified coaches on campus. I'm also supporting the career services team in the May Center. So really excited to have everybody today. I know it's been a fun journey on how we're kind of deep diving on strengths. So we get to talk again, woo. This is the thing. Y'all are going to be really excited. We have a great feature here today.
Okay, so I'm just going to read the definition for you guys quick of what woo is according to Gallup. So people exceptionally talented in the woo theme love the challenge of meeting new people and winning them over. They derive satisfaction from breaking the ice and making a connection with someone. I think that's a great definition, but I'm curious, Juan and Allie, how you guys maybe describe woo personally.
Ladies first.
Well, hi. You can tell I'm so smiley right now. I just love hanging out with you guys. I'm always smiling during Thursday, but particularly today. Juan and I think share a couple different strengths actually, so that's always exciting. For me, woo is very interesting. I don't know. Sometimes I'm extroverted, sometimes I'm very introverted. You know, there's balances to both of those, but for me, the winning others over and that woo strength is really acknowledging that the social energy that I bring to the room can sometimes influence the space around me. It is one of those like influencing strengths, which I think 3 of my top 5 are influencing. And I think it really didn't hit me until I took Clifton Strengths that this really was how to define it. I kind of always just was like, you know, I tend to either if I'm really hyped and trying to get the room as hype as I am, or kind of just recognize that my own energy really affected the people around me. But I realize now through Gallup that there's definitions and ways to explain that. And I think woo really explains that for me, is that when I am in a space where there are new people, sometimes it can be really uncomfortable. I don't think woos always automatically are like, I am so comfortable in this new environment, but I try to be as comfortable as I can, and I try to be as engaging as I can, and always trying to say hi to people. Woo is known as like the greeter. I cannot not say hi to people. I have to say hi. I just feel like I always have to say hi to everybody. Everybody who's looking at me right now knows the minute I see them, like, hi, hey, how's your day going? So that's what woo is for me, is just recognizing my own energy and recognizing the energy of people around me and trying to keep it in a nice balance between seriousness and just enjoyment of each other, and being in a space together. So yeah.
I agree with that. I personally define woo as like my olive branch when it comes to all sorts of situations, right? So positive situations, I'm going to be the one to initiate, right? A greeting, a smile, something like that. But especially in like tough situations, like working in higher ed, there are different agendas that we all have to support, right? And sometimes that can cause some friction with departments and professionals and practitioners and stuff like that. And I don't shy away from those situations because I have that woo. And I mean, just same thing what Allie said. Anyone who knows me, I wear it on my shoulder, and that's what I lead in with. As difficult as the situation may be, as critical a decision is, or whatever, I'm going to do my best to win others over by explaining myself and communicating and keeping people's feelings into consideration, being compassionate. But I think also for me, what has really, truly, it's been a blessing is, right, in new environments, they can be really uncomfortable. And like, we're kind of looking around like, okay, who's going to be the first one? I typically am one, or if not one of the first people to ask a question, to push collaboration, to push ideas and brainstorming, because I know that sometimes the presenter, right, who's presenting this information may not be a woo or may not be as skilled in woo. So I'm going to use that what I consider my superpower, honestly, to help push that. I need to see, and I want to see people see the presenter and see the person who's delivering the bad news in a better light. And how can I do that? What types of comments and what types of things can I bring to the table that make people think of different perspectives, right? No one's trying to attack anyone. No one's trying to make anyone feel any less. It's just stuff that has to be talked about. So that's how I use my woo on the daily, on really every occasion that I can.
Nice. Yeah, I can see both y'all, to be honest, that when you enter a room, the energy just changes. So kudos to both y'all. I know Allie in the morning, we are not a morning team, FYI, for Maze Center. There's pockets of morning team. But she brings in that, hey, good morning, how's it going? And just it uplifts us. I know, like, I'm especially not the morning person, so I appreciate that every morning. Allie especially bringing that woo, because it really just recharges. And then Juan, I've just seen you take a role on that. It was a new opportunity, so your position really wasn't there before. And you really have used your woo to kind of just, I guess, launch it to a whole new level. In the fact that you have faculty on board and staff on board with initiatives and have students come on. That's your woo speaking so loudly. Now,
Absolutely,
I would
yes.
love to hear if y'all can provide an example of a time where you're like, you know what? This is when my woo really helped me. This is when my woo shined. Let's see. Juan, you're going to go first on this one.
Okay. I'll kind of go back to what I was saying earlier about having to have crucial conversations. Communication is my number one strength. So I feel like I tend to layer both communication and woo at the same time. Because I really want to target my message and I want to make sure that I target my audience. Having tough conversations, I'm an advisor to two student organizations, Tau Sigma National Honor Society, which is the Transfer Student Honor Society, and then also Delta Chi, which is one of the fraternities on campus. And they're very different. Right, their energies, their platforms, their agendas, their mission is very different. One thing that they do have in common are very high standards of academics. Right, so you have to have a certain GPA to get in. You have to have a certain GPA to stay in. And sometimes, as an advisor, you really have to make it a point to balance, right? Balance the fun and energy of being in a student organization, and then also just the seriousness and the mission of making sure that we are thinking about that every single day. And when that mission is, when we pull away from that mission, when we pull away from our role as a student. When we pull away from our role as a student leader in any of these organizations, here comes Juan as the advisor having to say, we need a talk. Right? We're seeing some slippage on academics, on responsibility. You know, there was a deadline on this, but this didn't happen. What can I do to help you? And I have those conversations as soon as I can. And I think that it's woo that has really helped me remove that fear and remove that sense of hesitation. Like, I'm going to go for it because I've done my due diligence, right? I've built that trust with my students, with my student workers, with all of my staff members and my peers. So if it's something something tough that we have to talk about, every single time that one says, you know, hey, we need to talk, can you come to my office at 1 o'clock or at 2 o'clock? There's I hope, right, that I've been able to build enough trust and utilize my woo on a daily that people can feel confident that when they leave a crucial conversation that they were a part of, they can leave confident that any issue can be resolved, right? Any issues that I've had with performance or academics or responsibility can be resolved. And I think that's, wow, I mean, that's honestly, I've heard and seen so many people shy away from tough conversations, like, oh, I'll send it in an email, or I'll see if it gets fixed. Maybe they were just having a bad day or a bad week or a bad semester. And I'm like, oh man, like, address the issue, address it. How else are you going to get people to do what you need them to do? And how else are you going to get people to their full potential doing that? So that is how I've used woo. That's an example for me.
So Allie, I am seeing you smiling
Juan,
again.
Just love ya.
Again, some background information, Jaguars. They do have a lot of strengths in common. So I think they're both like nodding, like, mm-hmm. So Allie, what examples do you have for this? Again, I would love to hear your story.
Well, one, I'm always a storyteller. This is one of the things that I learned about myself when I was living abroad, is that everybody's always like, can you tell me a story? Or like, tell me about this. I embellish a little bit, but also like, it's always just really, yeah, Juan's like, I know. A bit, I'm not going to say I'm lying. I embellish, but also it's just like a really fun opportunity. I feel like when I also have communication, and I want to give an example of how I use it in a different way, but I just related so much to everything that Juan said. Like, there are so many opportunities for you to have conversations, but they can be really uncomfortable. And at what point do you say, I'm just going to have this conversation? Because I know that at the end of the day, like, we're still going to have a good relationship. We can build good professional relationships and good personal relationships, but still have open communication, open honesty. And because I will bring that energy into the room, that winning others over, to say, we're having a tough conversation, but at the end of this, we're still people. You're still human. I'm still human. We're still going to have a great relationship. So I just loved, Juan knows, I'm like, if you want to say it, just like call, like, or put it in an email, but like make it a real email. Like, I don't want to read like 7 paragraphs. Like, just let me know what's going on. And I think that plays into a lot of my communication in my woo, but specifically with my individualization and my woo and how they kind of play together. I think they play pretty well together, surprisingly. We do a lot of events on campus. We have a lot of people on campus who are professionals, but also students volunteering, or maybe they don't always want to be there. I do service learning classes and go into the classroom, and I can see students just being like, girl, I don't want to hear this. Like, I'm tired. It's a night class. I have to give a huge shout out to all of our students who are taking night classes. Those are tough. I'm tired when I go into that room after working, a full day. So I can only imagine how tired they are. So when I go into those rooms, it's so important for me to be able to like really make a connection with people and say, okay, like, hey guys, how's your day going? As people are coming in, saying hi, greeting them. Same thing when we have career fairs. Same thing when we have mixers. Being at the door and saying like, hey guys, come on in, take a seat. How's your day? That first engagement, that first impression is so important. And I feel like my woo really plays in there well. But also, woo is also defined as, some conversations have defined it as like this hospitality trait of just saying, I just want to be hospitable to you, and what that looks like. I actually, when I was abroad for a year, that's one of the pillars of our organization is hospitality, which I find so interesting that today it's popping back up in my mind. But the hospitality aspect of a woo, to say, sometimes I'm a loud woo, sometimes I'm just gonna sit in the room and be like, it's okay, you know, like, do you need to talk? Like, do we need to talk? It's this intuition to read other people's body language or emotions or their facial expressions, which I'm surprised that I'm good at that. Sometimes I can be kind of like, oh, a little flighty or whatever, but there is a special part of a woo that I love all woos, the intuition to say and see what's going on in the room. And like you said with the presenter, gosh, sometimes you just feel for a presenter and you just feel for that person that's standing up in the front of the room or who's having this conversation or who is maybe, you know, realizing halfway through the presentation, wait, we're going off track here or whatever. So I feel like it's that intuition, or how I've really been able to use it is the intuition to have a say in the room, ask a question, make a comment, lead the conversation maybe where a presenter is looking for, engage students the best I can. I love to throw a joke in every once in a while just to let everybody kind of take a deep breath. You know, my coworkers know I'll go into somebody's office and be like, I can tell you're not okay right now. Like, what's the conversation we need to have to just make your day better? And a lot of the times when you're in a professional organization, like, conversations can't always be had. Like, there are so many things going on in a professional workplace. Sometimes it's just me going, do you want some ice cream? You want to chat? You want to have a snack? You want to just like take a minute to de-stress and decompress from whatever it is that's going on in your world. And I feel like a woo has a really amazing capacity to see that in other people and to say, oh, I can do something. I can say something, or I can make an impact on their day and bring a different energy to the room. And, you know, they do talk about like loud versus quiet. I don't really know where I end up most days. I do know that, you know, and we can, when some of the challenges of being woo is coming next, but I will say, I know my coworkers aren't morning people. I wait till they get to their office. If I see them in the parking lot, I'm like, nope, they're not ready for my energy yet. I know that they're not ready. I'm just going to go in and I'll see them in a minute when they're getting coffee. Clarissa knows I park next to her and I'm like, oh, don't look at me yet. You're not ready. But I think that's a really interesting part of being a woo and winning others over is not just like this, ooh, like shaking energy where I'm just so excited to be where I'm at, because a lot of the times it is like that. But sometimes it's just this energy of being like, I like to be around these people and I want them to feel comfortable in the space that we're in, whether that is a silent room, whether that is a really tough meeting, or maybe it's a really tough class presentation, whatever it might be for our students. You know, when you're sitting in that presentation and you can feel, you know, the other people in your team really get really, you know, nervous about this presentation, and you start cracking a joke or like going over the notes with them, making them feel more comfortable. I feel like that's a really special part of how I use woo every day.
Thank you, Allie and Juan. So what I was hearing a lot of you guys talking about is that woo really is this tool that you use to help you build relationships and navigate difficult conversations at times, or even difficult settings. And it's just something that comes naturally to you in the best way. And it, like you said, Juan, your superpower.
Sure.
So with that being said, I also kind of heard that you're really good at those critical conversations where that could be a challenge for some other people. So you maybe use woo to lead in that way. What are some challenges that you guys face having woo? And if I could maybe even just put a twist on it, now that we're experiencing all of the COVID-19 difficulties, can you speak to how you are still engaging your woo and how you are maybe overcoming some of those challenges given this challenge that we're currently facing?
I'll answer to that first. I have caught myself trying to engage in any way that I can. My iPhone sent me my screen time for last week, and okay, it was like, what? This is how long I was on my phone? This is the average? But immediately after that, I thought, yes. Like, yes, I am in virtual worlds. I've been thrown into this world where I can only connect via virtual modalities. Yes, that is going to be the new norm, and I have to be okay with it, right? And I had to code switch, because it was like, before you'd look at that little screen time report and you're like, oh, that was my average. It was a little high. What can I do to put it down? What can I do to, like, set the phone aside? And now it's like I'm a little bit more okay with it. But just the other day, I was telling you all, Latika Sims, shout out to Latika. Hopefully she'll watch this. But she said something on her Facebook page, and it said, shout out to all my Clifton Strengths peeps, and to all my woos, right? Because we are all on the struggle bus together. Like, we're all on it, right? And it was funny, because I commented, and then another one of my mentors, the transfer student mentors, posted and was like, oh, like, I have no idea what to do with myself. And then a couple hours later, I went back to the post, and there were like 83 messages on this feed. And it was just like, it was so awesome to see people relate to this strength, because it really is, right, in the definition. It's in the definition that Clifton Strengths puts out. We want connection. We seek it. And now more so than ever, we are seeking that connection in any way that we can. Instagram, Facebook, I find myself responding to stories like I never have, responding to posts, responding to emails. I'm being intentional about responding to work emails and saying, hey, like, hope this email finds you well, because I know everyone's kind of going through a transition. So it's been a challenge to make sure that I'm feeling okay with the type of connection that I'm feeling. Because before, it was just, I'd walk into someone's desk, have lunch, see everyone on campus, have my students visit my office, and it was just connection. And that's what drove me on a daily. Now it's just about really putting things in your calendar and saying, right, Chanel, putting in half an hour or 15 minutes into my calendar and making sure that I can connect with them. That's my student worker. Connect with them, not about work, not about this or that. I know she's living in Houston right now, and her life is different. How can I connect? And that is honestly, that's been a little bit of a challenge, to accept that it is the new norm. Knowing that it is going to get better, and futuristic isn't in my top 5, but I sure do channel that a lot, and being okay that the connection is going to feel different, it's going to look different right now, and also, last thing before I turn it over to Allie, I feel like I do a really good job in connecting with my students, in both of the organizations that I advise, and we talk, and we have these like deep conversations, and it's just like, it's awesome. They're missing that right now. They're missing their Juan talks. They're missing their coming into Patriots Casa first floor and knocking on my door and saying, "Are you busy?" Right? They don't have that right now, and that's eating away at me, above everything else. That is honestly what is eating away at me. And can they reach me in other ways? Yes, text and FaceTime and so many other things. Is it the same? No. So I think that's the biggest. That's what I'm really hating right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a woo, but I can relate to that too. It's just something about that human connection that we're all missing right now. But I really like your suggestion, Juan, of just building in that time to connect with people, not even if work related, to just really connect with them on some level. And you know what? Your screen time may go up, but that's where we're at right now. Right?
Exactly.
So, Allie, what do you have to contribute, or what can you add to that?
Oh my goodness, I have so much to contribute. Are we kidding? No, I'm just kidding. I I think it's really interesting, and everyone who knows me can say this. I have a tendency to think I'm like this hyper introverted person where I'm like, I don't want to hang out with anybody. So when this all kind of initially happened, I was like, oh, I can be at home all day by myself. I currently live alone, so I was like, oh, this is a normal day for me. I'm not even worried. This is gonna be fine. We're going on week 3. I would not say that I'm fine. I don't think I realized either a couple things. One is that as a woo, I feel like my woo has really made me more concerned about the people around me, the people that I know who are really struggling or who are suffering. There are a lot of people who are suffering. You know, I'm struggling a little bit with, you know, being alone, but I feel like I see so many people who are really struggling with this, with these changes that are happening, with the uncertainty of everything that is happening. And, you know, a lot of my friends are still in graduate school, and they're kind of losing their minds because they're figuring out how to be unemployed. They're figuring out how to do classes online and all of these things. And I feel like my woo has really been pushed outward to connect with so many people as much as I can every single day. I mean, people that I always, you know, connect with, I always text them, you know, we always are calling or whatever, but in a very different way. And again, I think this goes back to my time that I spent abroad, where that was something that was really important to us, was that checking in with people and like building community that way. Oh, I love building community. That's the woo in me too, is just building community. But so, you know, my family and I, we had a virtual game night the other night, which we haven't done that in a long time. We've done it before because we all live in pretty far away from each other. But, you know, my friends, we all FaceTime for a happy hour, and I've been able to, you know, still be at the general store on campus because our food pantry is still open at this time. So we've had some connections there a little bit. But I feel like it's really pushed me to see how much other people can also affect me. My woo is also, you know, I'm taking in a lot of what's happening around me, and I'm trying to channel that in the best positive way that I can. But at the same time, you know, one of our coworkers the other day, he told me, you're like really worried about everybody else, but do you realize that you're also not okay? And I was kind of taken aback, like, what? I thought I'm doing great. And he was like, you're not. You're really not. I'm a little bit snappier than I normally would be. Things like that, where I feel overwhelmed by the technology. And, you know, I am a millennial, like I love technology, but there are some times when it's like, man, put it on my calendar, like, let's talk later. Poor Kaylyn on Friday, I was like, this is so far off my radar. I was like, go look at my calendar and put it on there for some other time. Because, you know, like Juan said, we're doing so much with social media right now. I am the networking chair for the social outreach and networking chair for an organization here in San Antonio, which I love. I love being able to host networking events. I love that we get to have monthly meetings and conversations around topics. This month we have an LGBTQ plus conversation coming up, but at the same time, trying to navigate those worlds of these, how do I still engage all of these different people? You don't realize how big the spheres of your life are until you're stuck at home trying to say, well, how do I connect with these people, and how do I get in on this meeting, and everything's through a WebEx or through a Zoom, and it's almost overwhelming because you miss that personal connection, like that just sitting down together. We're sitting down together with each other right now, but there is just this sense of disconnect that you really can't help but feel. And I think that's one of the challenges right now of being a woo. I think one of the other challenges of being a woo, and I've said it a couple times already, being a loud woo is so hard sometimes. People might mistake that for being inauthentic, flighty, a little too bubbly. Sometimes that's really hard, and I will be honest, this is just from my personal experience and my past work life and my, you know, professional life as I've kind of grown into this position, is sometimes people will not take you seriously because you are just happy to be there, and they're like, why is this one so happy? Why are you so bubbly? Or maybe they just don't that can be a real challenge for a woo, is if you are outspoken and you don't mind having those conversations of like, hey, that wasn't okay. You can't say something like that, or like, that's not, that's not right. Like, let's have a conversation, or holding people accountable can be really difficult when you're that loud woo. And it's a big challenge if people are seeing you as, inauthentic, or just this kind of bubbly, flighty person. And you're like, whoa, wait a second. Sometimes I have to tone down my woo a lot, which I hate doing. I hate toning it down because I think it's so fun. And I just want everybody else to be in that kind of energized feeling. But there's a lot of times where I have to say, wait, the woo is off. Like, it's too late to have woo now. Now we are in this conversation where you're not hearing me because of the energy that I'm bringing to the room. So I kind of have to like shift around a little bit. And I feel like that's another big challenge outside of COVID-19 and all the new challenges that we're facing. That's just an everyday challenge for me as a woo that I've noticed, not only in my professional life, but personal life as well. When you've got a huge group of friends around you and you're way up here and everybody else kind of starts going up to your level and the whole room is buzzing, you're like, well, you know what, now I'm exhausted. We got to bring it back down. So I think that's another challenge of a woo that they might find pretty regularly.
Thanks for that, Allie and Juan. I just want to add, you guys spoke so much to the challenges of woo not being able to connect and not being able to build those relationships and continue those relationships in the way that you maybe normally would. And I just want to mention that one of the barrier labels to woo is that you're seen as superficial and phony. And I think you guys specifically spoke to that and how it's not true for you. That's not how you use woo, and that's not something that relates. So thanks for sharing.
Absolutely.
So guys, again, I know both y'all have a huge theme of being collaborative, being people focused. Can you give us some insight? What are some tips to make sure that we can partner with a woo as effectively as possible? I know I'm doing this for a totally selfish moment. Kaylyn and I will be taking notes because we will love to know to make sure that we can utilize that wonderful talent that you're using naturally.
It's so interesting. When I first came to campus, one of the first people I collaborated with was Juan. And I don't know if that's just our mutual strengths, but I also remember it distinctly. Juan was one of the first people that said hi to me at our monthly meeting. We have a monthly divisional meeting, and that really struck me as like, just wow, somebody put themselves out there. I was new to higher education in general. I was new to everything that was happening. I was just confused. I was like, where are we going? What's happening? But I think tips for collaborating with a woo is just being ready to have that conversation, being ready to be open with them. And I will say a lot of the times it's difficult when somebody in my team maybe is like, whoa, your woo's got to bring it down. But it overall benefits the conversation that we're having. So I really appreciate honesty and communication along with my woo because, well, and two, I have activators. So anytime that my energy is really up and we're kind of getting out there, we're going, let's do it. It can be overwhelming for people. Like, that was one of the challenges, but communicating that to somebody with woo and saying, hey, I know you have woo and I know that you're like really excited about this project, but like, I'm not there, or having that conversation. I think also sometimes it's difficult for a woo, or some tips for collaborating, I guess, would be to understand that it's not always this flighty, superficial, just like going into that meeting. And if I'm cracking a joke, or if I'm just saying like, hey, how's everybody's day, or wanting to acknowledge somebody, I think I will say affirmations are so important in our offices and in our work. And I feel like that's another way to really connect with a woo, because sometimes it's hard. Oh, if this person I'm not reading them as well as I normally would, or what's their energy, or kind of where's their mind at right now, so that I can be the best person in the room to help them, or so that I can, really connect with them. So I think that's another way to like really collaborate with a woo, is if you have communication, or even if communication is not one of your strengths, like just understanding that they are trying to read the room in its entirety, and we're trying to really build energy for the bigger picture. And if that's not something that you're ready for, or if you feel like how can I collaborate with this person when they're so excited to get it done and I need to bring them back to reality? Clarissa does it all the time, and I love it. I need it. I need her to say, well, like, yeah, it's okay. Like, nah, it's not that exciting. And I'm like, aren't you excited? And she's like, yeah, I'm excited, but like, let's acknowledge the reality of whatever situation we're in. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Yep, I needed that. Good job. Thank you. But yeah, I think when collaborating with a woo, it's just like collaborating with a lot of energy and understanding that that energy is not fake. It's just what they're bringing to the table and utilizing it the best way you can. That's what at True Exact Impact, Miguel's always saying, okay, you go do the announcement. Go tell everybody how excited they are to be here, or go to, like utilizing that. Okay, guys, like everybody get in for a group picture. Like, are you having fun? But like utilizing them in that way will make them really be able to express their woo outward and work better in the team.
I completely agree with all that, Allie. I would also say, because I am a woo, I have to kind of toot our own horns a little bit. I have to say that in any type of project, situation, planning, brainstorm session, meeting, if there's a woo involved, then I can at least hope that there's going to be some good positive energy. And again, we kind of talked about that a little bit before, where some of that energy can come off as a little, misguided or something like that. But my biggest tip for anyone who is either wanting to collaborate with the woo or was put or thrown into a situation with the woo is use their strengths of people and positivity to keep the mission going and to really get people that are involved to buy in. I mean, that's huge, right? That's item number one on our agenda a lot of the times. Is we look at the mountain and we see how high it is and we see how poorly prepared we are to go up that mountain. But guess what? The woo is going to make the first step at climbing that mountain. So allow that skill to use it to your advantage, right? If you have a hard time in looking at the positive, or if you have a hard time winning others over and getting them to follow you and believe in the mission or the project and getting them to see the end result, have a conversation with someone that's involved, that's a woo, that has that kind of natural ability, and see what we can do for you, because nothing would give us more pleasure than to help you in winning others over. I mean, that's just, it's like, what? You're asking me? Absolutely, I'm on board, right? Who's your biggest challenge? Because that's the first person who we're going to win over. That's just the reality, right? Who is it? What have you heard? Allie, am I right?
Yeah, I love that you said, like, what can I do for you? Because that's every woo is going to come in the room like, what can I do for you? Because we want to win you over too.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
And I think that if you can use that and respect that strength in us, you've got yourself the hardest working person in your group. I'm sorry, no offense. I don't want to throw anyone under any bus. It's just my personal experience. I'm speaking personally. If you can do that for me, and also there's all this misconception, like once you get a woo going, it's going to be the Juan show or the Allie show, and that's like the wrong way to look at it. Because if it's someone else's show, if it's Kaelyn's show, Juan's going to do everything to make sure that lighting, sound, everything is going to be good for the Kaelyn show. because we're a woo and because that's just how we're wired. So let us do that for you. Let us make that part of climbing that mountain easier, personally or professionally. We are there for you in that capacity.
I love that. I just have to say, like, I think that's such a good point, is that people can sometimes think like, oh, she's like really excited, or they're really excited, they're gonna like take over every. And at the end of the day, and Clarissa's seen at career fairs, and Kaylyn's seen 100 million times, well, not 100 million times, it's been a year, but many times, you know, there's this idea of like winning others over. It's not always an external thing. Sometimes it's just my own team. I want to do whatever is going to make you happy, make you look good, make you look successful. And I love doing that. They know I'm always like, what can I do for you? What can I do to help? What can I do? Or who can I connect you with? I think that's another part of the woo, is like this networking ability to just be like, oh, wait, I know this person, or I want to know this person. I love when Clarissa's always connecting me to people. Kaylyn's always, you know, including me, like, oh, have you met Allie? I'm like, hi, everybody. But I think that's so interesting, is that it can be a misconception that like, oh, they're gonna come in with their woo and it's just gonna be too much for anybody to handle. But really, at the end of the day, if you bring in a woo on your project, their goal is to make you look better. Their goal is to make your project the absolute best that it can possibly be. And sometimes that is having a hard conversation of like, well, maybe this isn't the best way to go about it, or how can we do this? But at the end of the day, like, you ask a woo for something, and again, this is me personally, if you ask me for something, and I know if I ask Juan for something, I'm going to get the highest level of quality that I can, because they want you to succeed. And they want your project to be the best, and whether their name's on it or not, they just want to be there to win, because that just builds the relationship with you, with other people on your team, with other collaborators. So I love that you just said that, because I don't think I've ever really put it into that perspective before. But that's such an interesting perspective on how woos are winning others over, not always externally. Sometimes it's just internal to your own team. Oh, fascinating. You're so full of clever ideas.
And also, I want to put this out there too. It's like, you know, I'm not saying by any means that I've mastered woo, but 5-10 years ago, I wasn't as inclined to use my woo. 5-10 years ago, I didn't even know that woo was a thing, right? It was just my natural ability to do that. But if you are struggling in that capacity of connecting with people and networking and getting people to believe in you as a leader, because I think that's a really strong component of a true leader, we will get with us. Like, we'll talk things out, and we'll say, okay, well, how to try this. There's this, you know, for example, there's this one student leader who, you know, can't get anyone to follow them person, even if they're the first in line. Like, they just know that they struggle with the ability to get people to see them in that light. And, you know, whatever we can do, and we've had a lot of conversations like, okay, well, whatever message it is that you're trying to deliver, make sure that you lead in with the people first, with the person first. What are you going to say? What lead-in phrase are you going to say that's going to give you that trust, even if it's just for a split second? Because, right, we all know that that's fleeting sometimes. But when it comes to working with people and connecting with people, and you have a hard time in doing that, collaborate with us in that way, so that we can really give you some good tips on, you know, this is how I did it, or this is how I would approach it. This is how I would say this. Because hopefully by doing that, that'll give you more tools and tips on becoming a better leader, and getting your team to really follow you in really tough projects, or easy ones too, but tough projects is where you really need that to happen.
Well, thank y'all both. You provide some wonderful content and just some really great insight to Woo. I think the fact that you really burst that bubble too, that Woo is just about themselves. No, they're going to be the biggest cheerleader on whose ever team that they are on, and they're always just so fun to work with. Kaylin, do you have any closing remarks before we wrap this up?
I think Allie and Juan really covered it all. I think Woo is great. You guys are both great to work with. I think you bring a lot of energy, and I think, capitalizing on that energy is where you can really get the highlights of a Woo and get the essence of a Woo in its true form. So
nice.
Love it.
Well, okay, Jaguars. So next week we'll actually be talking about harmony, which is in the relationship building. So I have harmony in my 5. We'll actually be featuring Art Olage from our rec sports area. So you get to learn a little bit more. Yeah, we're a big fan of art here. So we get to learn about harmony and kind of deep dive into that strength next week. So please join us again. Also, if you want to learn a little bit more about strengths, please know that we are a strength-based institute. The fact that we're having these conversations, it's intentional. We really want you to take this time to really kind of self-reflect, saying, well, what am I naturally talented at, and how can I even make that better? How can I even use my top 5 to really handle this situation I'm in right now? The fact that both of them were able to speak of, well, this is how I'm using Woo to get over this difficult situation. We want you to be mindful of that. So you can actually find more information on our website for that. Also, please note that the Strengths 101 and 201 sessions are still going on. You can actually find that information on JagSync, so please feel free to sign up for one of those live sessions. And then we are still offering one-on-one coaching for strengths. So like say Kaylyn and myself, we're both certified coaches, and you can actually schedule time to meet with one of the various coaches on campus. So we look forward to having those conversations with you. And then don't forget to follow the Maze Center on any of our social media. We have some great content on our website, a lot of COVID-19 specific resources as well to make sure that you are taken care of during this time. Also, if you just have any follow-up questions about our services through the center, please feel free to shoot us an email at maze@tamusa.edu. And then all of our social media platforms, which Allie has really been doing a beautiful job on. We have social media for days, y'all. So Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter, all at Tamusa Maze. This is where you're going to find a lot of great content, from maybe financial literacy to strengths, just even general Q&A of how to maybe handle your job search during this time. So please make sure to follow us. Again, thank you all for a wonderful conversation. It was a wonderful day. All right.
Thanks, guys.
Stay safe, Jaguars, and we look forward to seeing you on campus soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.